Look, I've seen Behind Enemy Lines. I know Owen Wilson can do an action film, and I know he can do one well. So when No Escape started getting advertised, I was completely on board with it, and No Escape really didn't disappoint at all. No Escape is an action film starring Owen Wilson, which you've already figured out by now. So Owen Wilson's character and his family have to move to a new country. It's a southeastern country called Laos. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. L-A-O-S. But anyway, they have to move there because of his job, and he's in this engineering firm, something to do with water. Well, as they're starting to get comfy in their international hotel, something goes completely wrong. You see, a group of fanatic rebels overthrow the government, and now they have complete control of the area. I'm sure there's a great many things that this rebellious group didn't like the old government doing, but one of those things is this American firm that has come into their country and they believe is going to try to control the water source, and so they want all the Americans dead. Along with any other foreign people that just so happens to be in the international hotel at the time. Along with any of their own people that don't want this rebel group controlling the country. So now Owen Wilson has to keep his family together, try to stay alive amongst all the chaos that is happening in the country. I think the best word to describe No Escape is brutal. Now it might not be as graphic or as violent as some other R-rated movies I would consider brutal, but many of the implications that are done in this film and many of the intense action sequences are very brutal. Once the action gets going, there's honestly very little breathing room. I think there's only one moment where the characters actually get to stop, take a breath, and feel safe. The whole rest of the movie is just running and trying to keep one step ahead of the people wanting to kill them. And just seeing how this rebellion is just so eager to completely massacre innocent people and people they think are foreigners invading their country is frickin' intense and is horrifying. It's almost like seeing a zombie horde. Pierce Brosnan is the best part of this movie. His character has the most personality out of all the people in this movie, and he feels believable, he's funny, he's charming, he's also a badass when he needs to be. Pierce Brosnan is the real deal in this movie. Now, where Pierce Brosnan is the badass of the film, the family is really the heart and supposedly the soul of No Escape. Now, when I say supposedly the soul, there's something a little off about the family. Now, for one, they truly do feel like they're any average, normal family put into such a drastic and chaotic situation. But at that same time, they are a little on the bland side. Now, they're still the heart of the movie, and they're very easy to still care about just because all four of the characters are acted well, even the children. There's so many moments where you can see these could be real people, so many moments where you can imagine yourself in the situation, in their shoes. And when Owen Wilson's character finally has to do something drastic, finally has to do something that he would consider immoral, you really get to see him and his wife really react to it and just realize just the horror they had to commit in order to survive. And it's easy to see the chemistry these four have and the bond that this family is supposed to have. The four actors did all the best they could do with the characters and heightened everything. No Escape has a lot going for it. It's great. It's a great thriller. It's really heavy, very dramatic in the sense that there's such brutal things that goes on, and the characters have to go through such lengths in order to survive. But there's probably one thing I can actually say, yeah, there is something wrong with the film. It's the same little complaint I had with Selma. And that was a near perfect film if it wasn't for something that Selma did that No Escape also did. there was too much slow motion. Now I get it. Slow motion can make a scene dramatic, and it has done so throughout many other movies. There are moments in the film where the slow motion really does make the scene all the more dramatic and does put a little bit of art into the film. But then there are other times when the slow motion feels completely meaningless and just feels like they're continually trying to stretch out the runtime. I think there was one point in the film where there's probably about a stretch of 30-minute film that had at least 4 or 5 slow motion scenes in it, which is really crazy, even within the same scenes. But then once that slow motion is done, there really isn't any more slow motion through the rest of the film, which is it's really weird. It's like all in one section of the film, and there's some moments where it absolutely works and it feels great. Other moments in that section where it just doesn't feel like it's meaningful. And there's one particular thing that happens during 2 slow motion sequences, is that it shows this CGI that they had to implement in the film, and unfortunately it's not all that well integrated into the film. And so now that you've got slow motion focused on this not too well CGI, just makes it all the more noticeable and all the more cartoony. Now granted, it was a CGI moment where they're throwing the little kids over to the other roof. I am not encouraging them to throw real children. But when you do a slow motion effect on these children that are clearly added into it in post-production and look a little cartoony, it just makes it all the more noticeable and all the more worse. Now, does No Escape have its flaws? Of course. Is it a little bit more of a dumb action thriller than something that is emotionally gripping? Yeah, but there is some really good heavy moments that do work dramatically. But overall, I had a fun time. I loved almost every second of it. It kept me on the edge of my seat, which is what you want in a really good action thriller. And so just like Straight Outta Compton, I'm on the fence with this one, and again, it's more of a 4.25 for me, but because I don't do quarters, I'm going to give it 4 stars. I honestly think I like No Escape a little better than Behind Enemy Lines, but I gave them both around the same score. So have you seen No Escape? What did you think about it? Go ahead and comment. And as always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was Just My Opinion.